There we go. Now I'm on mute. Thank you for that reminder. Hi. All right, there we go. So good morning. Let me say this all again. Welcome to this morning's Advisory Commission on Charter Schools meeting for June 13th, 2023. It's my honor and privilege to chair. It is 9:31, so now that we are no longer on mute, we begin. So members of the public who wish to make public comment may do so in person or by calling into the meeting. Public comment will be limited to 1 minute per person for each item. Members of the public wishing to make public comment in person should sign up on the sign-up sheets located on the tables in the back of the boardroom. California Department of Education staff will call up members of the public by name when it is time to take public comment. Individuals should form a queue behind the microphone at the back of the room and wait for further direction from department staff prior to making public comment. Members of the public wishing to dial in for public comment should view the live stream of the meeting. The number and access code will be provided at the start of public comment for each item. Prior to making public comment, callers who are watching the meeting live webcast should make sure that the volume on their computer is muted to avoid echoing sounds during the call. When it is a caller's turn to make a public comment, the caller will hear a voice announcement that says that they are unmuted. Another announcement will be made when a caller's time for public comment has ended. To call in for public comment, dial 717-908-1926 and use access code 1166083#, and I will repeat that often. For the flag salute, I am feeling really good, so I think I'll go ahead and lead it. So if everyone will please rise and join me. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. So, what I'd love to do right now is acknowledge our our state board liaisons, Cynthia Glover-Woods and Sharon Olkin, for joining us as always. We'd love to have you here. And then I'm going to ask each of the commissioners, with the exception of our newest member, to announce themselves, and we'll give you the last statement, and we'll let the rest of us get it out of the way. So we'll start to my far left, and we'll just work our way all the way around. Please tell us who you are and who you represent.
Derek King, Charter Schools.
Steve Almost, Parents.
Mike Walsh, Governing Board of Schools.
Helio Brazil, Superintendent of Keys and representing superintendents.
Good morning, Todd Fennell, representing California County Superintendents.
And Matt Taylor, representing Charter Schools.
And good morning and welcome to our newest commissioner. And I will let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nancy Kim Portillo. It is an absolute pleasure, joy, and honor to be here with you today. I am here on behalf of Superintendent Tony Thurman as his appointed position. I have the joy of serving our state as a deputy superintendent here with the California Department of Education. I've spent the last probably 25 years in education, a number of different educator and leadership capacities. Our traditional wonderful public charter schools, in addition to large charter management as well. So it's great to be here with you, and looking forward to our conversations today. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us and adding all of that the experience that you bring with you. Looking forward. So at this moment, we'll move on, and I'd love to entertain a motion to adopt our meeting notes from the April 2023 meeting.
I'll move to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Brazil? A second?
Mr. Taylor seconds.
And with that, I will take a roll call vote. I vote aye. Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
Commissioner Olmos?
Aye.
Commissioner Portillo?
Aye.
Commissioner King?
Aye.
Commissioner Fennell?
Aye.
And Commissioner Brazil?
Aye.
All right, it is moved unanimously. All right, we will take general public comment after the Charter Schools Division update. Members of the public who wish to make general public comment by phone for items that are not part of the agenda may dial in now. Please call 717-908-1926 and use access code 1166083#. You must enter access code 1166083# to be added to the caller queue. Callers making public comment should make sure the volume on their computer is muted to avoid echoing sounds during the call. So at this time, we will give space for Commissioner Patil to give an update on the charter program division. Do you have anything?
Right now, not at this time. I'm here to listen, learn, first day on the job. So thank you so much.
I was checking my notes, and I meant to ask you that in advance, so there you go. All right, thank you. All right, so with that, there we go. So with that, we will move on to public comment. We will take public comment first from people in the room. So CD staff will call the names of members of the public. Please form a line at the microphone located in the back of the room. So do we have anyone? All right, seeing none in the back of the room, we will take general public comment from callers on the phone. Is there anyone on the line for public comment? All right, we're flying along here, folks. All right, so the ACCS will hear two funding determination items and consider an appeal to establish a new charter school. So let's go ahead and move on to item number one. People wishing to make public comment by phone for item number one should call in at this time. Again, dial 717-908-1926 and use access code 1166083 # when prompted. You must enter access code 1166083 # to be added to the caller queue. In item one, we will consider request for funding determination from 4 charter schools. McKenna Yuba will be joining us from the Charter Schools Division and present this item. So I understand that she will be joining us virtual? Okay.
Yes. All right. Good morning, Chair Walsh and members of the commission. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. My name is McKenna Huey, representing the Charter Schools Division, and I will present items 1 and 2 of today's meeting agenda. So item 1 considers determination of funding requests from 4 charter schools, all of which qualify for 100% funding for their non-classroom-based instruction based on the regulatory requirements and their reported expenditures. The California Department of Education proposes to recommend that the State Board approve the funding determination requests for all charter schools presented in this item at 100% and for the time periods requested by the charter schools, as specified in Attachment 1. Pursuant to California Education Code Section 47612.5, a charter school may receive funding for its non-classroom-based instruction only if a determination of funding is made by the State Board. Education Code also states that non-classroom-based instruction is conducted for the instructional benefit of pupils and is substantially dedicated to that function, which is to be demonstrated by the amount of the charter school's total budget expended on certificated employee salaries and benefits and on school sites, as well as the teacher-to-pupil ratio of the school. So pursuant to California Code of Regulations, Title V, Section 11963.4a, a charter school requesting a determination of funding may qualify for either 70%, 85%, or 100% funding for their non-classroom-based instruction, or may be denied. The expenditure and pupil-teacher ratio criteria for all funding levels for non-classroom-based instruction are summarized on this slide. To qualify for a proposed recommendation of 100% funding, a charter school must spend at least 40% of its public revenues on salaries and benefits for all certificated staff, spend at least 80% of all revenues on instruction-related services, and maintain a ratio of average daily attendance for independent study pupils to full-time certificated employees that does not exceed a pupil-to-teacher ratio of 25:1, or the pupil-to-teacher ratio of the largest unified school district in the county or counties in which the charter school operates. Regulations do not provide specific guidance on the number of years a charter school shall receive funding for its non-classroom-based instruction, only the minimum and maximum number of years permitted. It is the department's current practice to recommend time periods based on the number of times a charter school has renewed its funding determination with the State Board. For charter schools renewing their funding determination for the first time, the department typically recommends a period of 3 years. And for charter schools' subsequent renewal funding determination requests, the department typically recommends a period of 4 years. department previously recommended 5-year periods dependent on a charter school's academic performance index rank. However, because this is no longer calculated, the department does not currently recommend 5-year periods. So all charter schools presented in this item meet the regulatory requirements to qualify for 100% funding. As such, the department proposes to recommend that the state board approve the schools for 100% funding for the time period specified in attachment 1. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your consideration of this item, and I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
So at this moment, do any commissioners have clarifying questions for staff? And again, clarifying questions are simply meant to address uncertainty about the information that was presented. If we have any substantive questions, and those go beyond addressing that questions of the information that was presented, those will need to hold until after public comment. So at this time, do any of the commissioners have a clarifying question for McKenna Yui?
Chairman Walsh, I do have a question, but
Please.
as I color the question, you'll tell me if it's clarifying or not. It is. All right. So the nature of my question for McKenna is really the fact that it seems like charters are being penalized because API is no longer being used to go down from 5 years to 4. Is there a plan to reconcile that at some point in the future?
Sorry. At this time, the department recommends time periods based on its current practice. There is definitely room to reconsider our practices, but this is how we currently process these requests. And we did this just to establish some form of consistency across all funding determination requests that we receive.
So the nature of my question is really this. I totally get what you're talking about with respect to practice, but it's still practice is more restrictive. So, for example, and again, this is the nature of why I want to know if it was clarifying or not.
And then I'm going to let Commissioner Patil respond to this as well.
So the nature of the question is, even though the practice has been adopted to go to 4 years, I don't understand how it was reconciled down, because it's less permissive than allowing it to stay at 5, and it penalizes the charter schools.
Thank you so much for the question. I think my response right now, it's going to be, I really appreciate the question, and it's a good question, and I can take it back to the team and probably find some more information if that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other clarifying questions? All right. Are there any public commenters on the phone for item 1?
Yes, thank you, Chair Walsh. We do have 3 callers on the line.
All right. Well, then the operator will notify callers when it is their turn to provide public comment. Reminder that public comment is limited to 1 minute per speaker. Please begin.
Good morning, caller. Please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now. Caller with the phone number ending in 2962. You're live. Go ahead. Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now. Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now. Okay, we no longer have any callers in the queue.
Feel confident that they are no longer there, or we have any problems on our end?
I'll check really quick. Apologies.
So I'm going to pause for 5 minutes because I do want to make sure that the public has a chance to respond.
said it should be back up in about 3 minutes.
Well, then we will definitely recess for 5 minutes because we're part of the process, and I want to stay tight with it, is that we give public comment before we deliberate. So I am going to go ahead and pause things for 5 minutes. So recess. Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. Technical difficulties have been dealt with, and we will now return to public comment for those who are on the phone. So at this time, you have 1 minute.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Good morning, it's Eric Premack with the Charter Schools Development Center, phoning it in this morning, literally and figuratively. Welcome to Ms. Kim Portillo, and congrats on taking what I think is the hardest job in the department for a while here. We support the recommendations for 100% funding. We also share Commissioner King's concern about the length of the terms and would encourage you to go longer to avoid this burdensome process that is often unnecessary. Thank you.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Good morning. This is Jeff Rice with A+. Morning, Commissioners. I would like to suggest that a distinction should be made between what statute says and what the Department's policy has been with regard to funding determination periods. The statute does allow for a funding determination period from 2 to 5 years, and while it originally cited the API example as one example of a 5-year funding determination circumstance, statute does not preclude the Commission from recommending a period of 5 years for other situations. We have recommended for years that the Department of Education and the Advisory Commission consider applying the same internal policy that the Department has established to move from 3 to 4 years to move from 4 to 5 years. That is that once a charter school has gone through a period of a 4-year funding determination period, they may then qualify for a 5-year funding determination period. We'd like to ask the Commission to consider an example. And we also recommend that.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Good morning, Zach Mercado from the California Teachers Association. We must express our continued concerns with this process. It is broken and opens the door to bad actors like the A3 charters who committed fraud and stole hundreds of millions of dollars in public funds. Many of the commissioners have time and time again expressed significant concerns regarding the process, the intersection of the authorizer and the state level process. We must fix this broken process as soon as possible to ensure that another A3 scandal does not occur. Thank you.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now. Caller disconnected. Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now. Caller with phone number ending in 6119. You're alive. Go ahead. Okay, looks like we have no other callers in the queue.
All right, thank you. Do we have anyone in the room who would like to make a public comment on item number 1? Seeing no one approaching the microphone.
We do have one person signed up for public comment, Nicholas Watson.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the Commission. I'm Nicholas Watson from the California Charter Schools Association. Can you hear me? Nicholas Watson, CCSA. Thank you, CDA staff, for your continued work on these funding determinations. We support the staff recommendation for full funding. I would also support 5-year funding periods as well. Thank you.
At this point, it is now opportunity for us to deliberate. So, commissioners, any questions or comments, or do we start entertaining motions? Again, I will entertain a motion or deliberation.
I move that we approve the funding recommendation for the charter schools in front of us for a period of 5 years.
So the motion is to approve for a period of 5 years the funding determinations we have before us. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion that has been made by Commissioner King and seconded by Commissioner Brazil. Conversation?
My rationale for it is echoing my earlier sentiments. It's basically the statute allows it. And so by continuing to do 4 years, we're codifying practice, and reconciling it down from what the statute allows.
And I would like to share that those are my sentiments as well. I don't believe that we should be punishing charters based on the lack of an API, which has nothing to do with where they are operating and of no fault of their own. So,
Commissioner Fennell, you look like you're deep in thought.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not necessarily opposed to going to 5 years. I have concerns about making that change. I mean, it has been the practice. I guess I'm supportive of the staff recommendation. I don't know that I'm comfortable changing the practice on the fly without some further investigation and understanding of the consequences of that.
Can I offer a response just to color it? So typical practice, just having gone through it, is 5 years. The first time we ever got 4 years was recently. So actually, if we were going to adopt past practice, it would be more appropriate to do 5 years than 4, because that was the norm until recently.
Commissioner Patil.
I have a clarifying question. Did the 4 schools request, how many years did the actual schools request?
All right, thank you for that question. So none of the schools presented in this item requested a period of 5 years. As outlined in attachment 1, the schools either requested a period of 3 or 4 years, which is what the CDE is recommending.
Thank you. And Commissioner Fennell, you stated my concerns as well. I appreciate the conversation, Commissioner King, and I completely understand why you chose that. But I'm more in alignment with what you're saying, Commissioner Fennell. So, any further conversation before I call the question? All right, we have a motion to approve for 5 years for all of the programs, all the charter programs, and it has been seconded. So, the vote, let's take it. So, Commissioner Brazil.
aye.
Commissioner Fennell.
Because of the change to 5 years, I vote no.
Commissioner Patil.
I vote no.
Commissioner King.
Aye.
Commissioner Olmos.
No.
Commissioner Taylor.
Because of what Commissioner Fennell said, I would vote no as well.
And I also vote no. So the motion fails 5-2. I'll entertain a new motion.
I'll move that we approve the staff recommendation to approve based on the number of years presented.
So we have a motion to approve as staff has recommended. Do I have a second?
I would second that, but I'd like to add that if possible, could we have a presentation at our next commission meeting about why CDE chose 5 years and 4 years versus 5, and what the specific plan that we would recommend to the state board to fix this process to allow for a 5-year rather than. So I don't know if that needs to be a separate motion or if that's a friendly amendment to Commissioner Fennell's motion that you'd be willing to accept.
I'd like to recommend that it happens outside of this because Commissioner Patil is taking notes right now. So I'd love to ask that you make the motion please adjust your motion one way or the other right now for us, so the public knows what your motion is, or rather, you second
Commissioner Fennell's motion as stated, and then I would like to make a statement afterwards.
Okay. And so we have a motion and a second as staff has recommended. Further comment? All right, then we'll take the vote. So Commissioner Brazil?
No.
Commissioner Fennell?
Aye.
Commissioner Portillo?
Can you just repeat and clarify what we're voting on right now?
We are voting on the motion we're voting on the recommendation as CD has presented.
Yes, for the 4 years? Yes.
And just for clarity, that would be 3 years for Empower, 4 years for Gorman, 4 years for Gorman in San Bernardino, Santa Clara, and 3 years for iLead Hybrid.
So that is the 100% funding for each. Yes, aye.
So at this moment, I have 1 no and 2 ayes. And let me get back to my spot. Commissioner King?
Aye.
And Commissioner Olmos?
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Motion passes 6-1. And Commissioner Taylor, if you want to make any clarity now for your request, now would be a great time.
Yeah, so my request would be that for our next ACCS meeting, that we have a presentation by CDE as to how they determined that 5 years is not eligible, and what's the plan to ensure that we can allow 5-year approvals.
Any further clarification?
No clarification. I'm just playing back the presentation in my mind right now to see if there was any justification or even any pieces of why. So I'm just playing that back right now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then we will move on to item number 2. Consideration of request for determination of funding with reasonable basis or mitigating circumstances. People wishing to make public comment by phone for item number 2 should call in at this time. Dial 717-908-1926 and use access code 1166083# when prompted. You must enter access code 1166083# to be added to the caller queue. So item 2 is a consideration for funding determination for 4 charter schools. McKenna Huey from the Charter Schools Division will present once again.
All right. Good morning again. So as Chair Walsh stated, item 2 consists of non-classroom-based funding determination requests with the consideration of mitigating circumstances for 4 charter schools. The department proposes to recommend the state board approve the schools for 100% funding, which is a higher level of funding than for which they qualify to receive, based on their reported expenditures. As addressed in the previous item and is illustrated in the table on this slide, regulations outline the eligibility requirements and criteria for funding for charter schools offering non-classroom-based instruction. For charter schools that do not meet the requirements and criteria for their requested level of funding, regulations state that this commission may find a reasonable basis, referred to as a mitigating circumstance, by which to make an other recommendation in order to allow a non-classroom-based charter school to receive a higher percentage of funding than it qualifies for based on its expenditures. When considering mitigating circumstances, the department is guided by regulations and considers the unique or exceptional circumstances of the charter school. Regulations provide specific instances for which mitigating circumstances may be considered, which include but are not limited to information provided by the charter school on its funding determination form, documented data regarding individual circumstances of the charter school, the size of the charter school, and the number of years that the charter school has been in operation. Regulations also permit the department to ask charter schools for additional information in order to make possible a more detailed review or to develop a reasonable basis for a recommendation other than those prescribed by regulations. And pursuant to this section, the department requests and considers additional information of charter schools, which may include charter schools' excess reserves, and their previous requests for the consideration of mitigating circumstances. So for charter schools requesting the consideration of mitigating circumstances, the department recommends a funding period of 2 years, regardless of the number of times they have renewed their funding determination with the state board. A period of 2 years allows the department to timely revisit schools' funding determinations and ensure that the schools are meeting the expenditure requirements outlined in regulations for their approved level of funding. The department finds a reasonable basis for the schools presented in this item to be approved for a higher level of funding than for which they qualify to receive, and therefore proposes to recommend that the state board approve the charter schools funding determination requests at 100% for 2 fiscal years. Thank you again for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
At this time, do any of the commissioners have clarifying questions for McKenna? All right. So are there any public commenters on the phone for item 2?
Yes, Commissioner, we do have 3 callers on the line.
Okay.
Good morning, caller. Please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now. I'm not confident that it's still up. Let me just check with staff really quick. It might have gone down again.
McKenna, while they are checking on the phone systems, I do have a clarifying question. At the end of your presentation, did I hear you say correctly that all of the programs are being recommended for 100% for 2 years?
Yes, that is.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Walsh, I have a clarifying question on there. Looking at the paperwork, it looks like Hanford is 85% for 2 years, not 100. So McKenna, can you clarify that?
Yes, so we did post a revised version. We did post a revised version of this item. I believe it was the end of last week where we revised our recommendation for Hanford. So we were initially recommending 85%, but we changed our recommendation to 100% as the school had submitted additional information for our consideration.
Thank you. Thank everyone for your patience as we deal with technical difficulties. Let's give it a try.
Okay, next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
This is Jeff Rice with A+ calling in, and we do support the CDE's recommendations for all 4 schools for 100% funding for 2 years.
State your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now. Okay, thank you. Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Good morning. This is Zachary Mercado from the California Teachers Association. I'd like to echo my comments from item 1 and just to call out that the 2-year recommendation is an appropriate safeguard given that none of the issues and loopholes that are currently in place that led to the A3 scandal in which hundreds of millions of dollars were stolen have been fixed. So just keep that in mind as a discussion for 5 years occurs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Good morning again. Eric Premack with the Charter School Center in support of 100% funding, and thanks CDE for their work on these.
Thank you. And there are no other callers in the queue.
Thank you. Do we have anyone who wishes to give public comment in the room?
We do have one person signed up for public comment, Nicholas Watson.
Hi, Nicholas Watson, CCSA, in support of the staff recommendation for full funding. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Commissioners, it is ours to have a conversation, deliberate. Are there any questions or concerns or any deliberations you want to start right now? Any questions? Commissioner Olmos.
Yeah, I do have a question regarding Hanford. Just looking at their application in their PTR. Again, on their application, they stated that they were 25-1, yet looking at their ADA in their FTE, they were at 43.42, which is what CDE had on the first release of the agenda that I received and printed out. I just don't know what they submitted that got their PTR up or actually lowered to the 25.1. And again, even for the 22-23 school year, according to their own data here, they're 26.44.
McKenna, do you have any information for that?
Yes, so we did reach out to Hanford regarding their PTR. As based on our calculation, we did find that there was a difference between that and what they reported on the form. Hanford has clarified that they incorrectly reported their PTR on their funding determination form and provided us with additional information that showed that they do meet the PTR requirements of less than 25-1.
Thank you. Any further questions, Commissioner Olmos?
No.
So any other questions from the Commission? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
So Commissioner Brazil moves to approve as presented. Any second?
Second.
The second from Commissioner King. We'll take a vote. Commissioner Brazil.
Aye.
Commissioner Fennell.
Aye.
Commissioner Portillo.
Aye.
Commissioner King.
Aye.
Commissioner Olmos.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
And I vote aye. That's unanimous. 7-0. Motion passes as recommended by CDE. All right. At this point, we'll move on to item number 3. I am going to ask that we go ahead and move forward on this. We're making incredibly good time. I'm not feeling like we need to have a break right this moment, so bear with me, Commissioners, as I keep us moving forward. So our role today in item number 3 is to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to make a recommendation to the board to hear the appeal, or in the lack of sufficient evidence, make a recommendation to the board to summarily deny review of the appeal. The ACCS is not intended to delve into the merits of the petition or determine whether an abuse of discretion has occurred. That is only for the state board to decide, depending on whether they make a determination that they will hear the appeal. So at this time, we'll have Rick Reyes will present the item and share CDE's recommendation. Commissioners, we will hold all of our questions until after the public comment. Also, people wishing to make public comment by phone for item number 3 should call in at this time. Again, the number is 717-908-1926. Use access code 1166083# when prompted. Again, you must enter access code 1166083 to be added to the caller queue. So at this time, I'd love to hear from CDE. So we'll get your microphone.
How about now?
Yep, now we can hear you.
Good morning, Chair Walsh and Commissioners, and welcome, Deputy Superintendent Portillo. My name is Rick Reyes. I'm an Education Programs Consultant representing the Charter Schools Division of the CDE. And I'll be presenting item 3, the appeal of the denial of a petition for the establishment of New Pacific School, Yuba City. The New Pacific School Yuba City petition proposes a new transitional kindergarten through grade 12 charter school opening in 2023-24. New Pacific submitted its petition to the Yuba City Unified School District pursuant to California Education Code section 47605A. And the district denied the petition on August 23rd, 2022 by a vote of 5-0. New Pacific appealed the district's denial to the Sutter County Board of Education pursuant to Education Code section 47605K1A1. And the county denied the petition on January 18th, 2023 by a vote of 3-0. New Pacific submitted its petition to the California State Board of Education on February 7th, 2023 pursuant to Education Code section 47605K2. Today, the CDE recommends that the Advisory Commission on Charter Schools issue a recommendation to the SBE to hear the appeal. This recommendation is based on the CDE's review of New Pacific's appeal and the documentary record, which included sufficient evidence to hear the appeal. Pursuant to Education Code 47605K2D, the ACCS shall hold a public hearing to review the appeal and the documentary record, and based on its review, submit a recommendation to the SBE whether there is sufficient evidence to hear the appeal or summarily deny review of the appeal based on the documentary record. At its July 12th, 2023 meeting, the SBE will determine whether to hear the appeal
I echo that. It works.
Okay. All right. At its July 12th, 2023 meeting, the SBE will determine whether to hear the appeal or summarily deny review of the appeal. All right. New Pacific School Yuba City's appeal submission. New Pacific submitted the following items pursuant to Education Code section 47605K2A. A written submission of New Pacific's appeal, which included allegations of abuse of discretion by the governing boards of the district and the county. New Pacific's charter petition, the documentary record from the district, the documentary record from the county, and supporting documentation from New Pacific. New Pacific stated the following allegations of abuse of discretion by the district: that the district board adopted findings of fact for denial that were unlawful, and that the district board adopted findings of fact for denial that were entirely lacking in evidentiary support. New Pacific stated the following allegations of abuse of discretion by the county: that the county board's action to deny the charter petition appeal without any written findings was unlawful on its face, that the county board's unapproved post hoc written findings do not match the verbal findings from the board meeting and do not form legal bases for denial, further cementing this unlawful action, that the county board's denial of the charter petition appeal was procedurally unfair, that the county board's unapproved post hoc reasons for denial were entirely lacking in evidentiary support, and that the county board meeting was unlawful because it did not provide a fair and impartial hearing process on the charter petition. Written oppositions to this appeal. Pursuant to Education Code 47605K2C, within 30 days of the receipt of the appeal submitted to the SBE, the governing board of the school district or county board of education may submit a written opposition to the appeal. On March 20th, 2023, the district submitted a written opposition to New Pacific's appeal. The county did not submit a written opposition to this appeal. Yuba City Unified School District's written opposition argues the following in response to New Pacific's allegations: that the district's adopted findings were lawful and that the district's adopted findings were supported by the evidence. Yuba City Unified denied New Pacific's petition based on the following findings: that the petition presents an unsound educational program, that the petitioners are demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program set forth in the petition, that the petition does not contain the number of signatures required by Education Code, and that the petition does not contain reasonably comprehensive descriptions of the required elements in Education Code. All right, in conclusion, the CDE recommends that the ACCS issue a recommendation to the State Board of Education to hear the New Pacific appeal. New Pacific has submitted all required documents and met all timelines pursuant to Education Code 47605 K2A. And based on its review of the records submitted pursuant to Education Code, the CDE finds that the appeal presents sufficient evidence for the ACCS to issue a recommendation to the SBE to hear the appeal pursuant to Education Code 47605. Thank you very much, and the CD staff is available for questions.
Thank you very much. So at this time, we are going to, open the public hearing. New Pacific Charter will have 10 minutes to address the commission. Following New Pacific's presentation, Sutter County will have 10 minutes to also address the commission. So now that the hearing is open, we'll invite New Pacific to share.
Good morning, Chair Walsh, chairpersons, and thank you so much for letting us be here. My name is Paul Kiefer. I'm the Executive Director of Pacific Charter Institute, and New Pacific School, Yuba City, is a school that we're talking about today. With me is Council Janelle Ruley from Young Manian Corps, who will help to frame our discussion, and so I will take the lead at this point. I'd like to just start with a quote. Every day, or every week, I get an email from Leader in Me, which is the Franklin Covey organization for building SEL for students, social emotional learning. And it says, how we integrate Leader in Me into our school culture can create incredible opportunities for students to experience powerful paradigm shifts about leadership and themselves. And we saw that firsthand this year with the first school of New Pacific School in Roseville, and I'll talk to that in a little bit later. To start, we'll talk about a PCI, NPS, or New Pacific School, and Yuba City, the charter petition appeal, and as well the request to ACCS. Pacific Charter Institute is a nonprofit public benefit corporation. We started in 2005. We currently have 6 charter schools with 6 learning centers, 2 site-based schools, and 11 resource centers or academic programs. New Pacific School Yuba City would be a small project-based personalized learning school serving grades TK through 12, opening the fall of 2024. If approved, the school would be open with 100 students in grades TK through 5. So obviously the denial reasons from Yuba City that were provided to you talked about our inability to actually launch, and Roseville did launch, and we did have a full year, and that's exciting for us, certainly. And so these are our adopted budget that we just confirmed yesterday with the Pacific Charter Institute Board, showing our projections both for our ADA as well as our financial projections. And so as you can see, both financially and through students, we're checking those boxes to show that we're both viable as well as doing the good work for students in California. In particular, I would like to point out that our reserve across this whole organization over 18 years is an $18 million reserve, which allows us to have the flexibility, especially in the dark times of deep budget cuts, which we experienced over the last 18 years. This diagram just illustrates what we're doing, what we feel is part of our secret sauce, which is to identify and attack early learning. And so what this shows is across the organization, we're making gains in our oral fluency across all of our schools. This goes up to our 4 independent study charter schools, and New Pacific is our brand new school, and they were learning a lot of things in 1 year. And so in a first-year operation, we had a lot of great successes, and this data we're still compiling. And then our CAS trends. This also shows that even through COVID, 3 of our 4 schools went up, and certainly we put in our projected data because we're able to access that, and we went up yet again. So while other schools are going up and down, PCI, in either it's independent study or site-based schools, our students get better when they're enrolled with us. I think I'm going on to Ms. Ruley's section next, but I want to point out, I did pull up our preliminary data for New Pacific School, Roseville, and our scores compared to Yuba City for last year, because we don't have access to their scores for this year. 9 out of the 11 schools, let me reframe that. New Pacific School, Roseville, this year exceeded 9 of the 11 elementary schools in Yuba City in language arts, and 7 of the 11 schools in math. That's a brand new school, learning Leader in Me, multi-grade classrooms, project-based learning, in 183 days surpassed most of the schools in the district. So I think when we see the reason why they didn't want us, we prove that we can do this work. So with that, I'd like to pass it to Ms. Ruley. Oh, one last slide. Sorry. Oh, I went too far. I guess all I'm going to say that the New Pacific Roseville opened this year. This next year we'll be opening in Rancho Cordova. Folsom Cordova Unified approved us for opening this next year. And so we have a plan. We have a methodical plan to try to improve student learning and create opportunities for students. And so this just illustrates that other local school districts approve of both our methodologies and our expertise.
Thanks, Paul, and good morning, Commissioners, Chair Walsh. Welcome to Director Portillo. My name is Janelle Ruley. I'm an attorney with the law offices of Young, Minnie, and Core. Certainly glad to be here in support of PCI and New Pacific School today. Our request of the Advisory Commission today is really just the same as the CDE's request of the Advisory Commission today, which is to vote to recommend to the State Board that they hear the appeal of New Pacific School. We believe that our written submission, which is the appeal, that the written submission clearly lays out abuses of discretion by both the county and the district. When New Pacific School was before the county after the district denial, it was a bit of an unusual meeting. County staff recommended approval of the charter. They recommended approval of that appeal. The charter school was certainly thrilled for that recommendation. County staff then prepared 2 different resolutions for the board to consider. The first resolution was to approve with an MOU. The second resolution was to deny, but it contained blank lines for the county board to fill in should they have a reason to deny the charter, because they have to have written factual findings. So blank lines. County staff didn't have any reasons to deny, so they didn't put any in the resolution. So the law, of course, is clear. This is well before AB 1505. This has always been the case. The law is very clear that a charter can only be denied with written factual findings. Here, the county board denied without written factual findings. This is a sort of a screen grab from the transcript that the county board prepared for this appeal. Just for context, Mr. Hendricks, whom I believe you'll hear from today, is one of the deputy superintendents of the county. Mr. Russer is the superintendent. Ms. McJunkin is the president of the board, and Ms. LaChance is the VP. So what they're saying is, first staff are saying, hey, if I could reiterate legal counsel, and then superintendent says we need to put the reasons in, the denial reasons. The board member says yes, sort of acknowledging that we need written factual findings. Superintendent asks if they exist, and then the board vice chair says, well, I'll type mine out, and the board chair says, send them to me and I'll add them to the resolution, meaning after the meeting. This is not standard practice, probably as many of you know. The board, again, is trying to deny without any written factual findings. Staff is trying to intercept them and have them prepare those written factual findings. And the board just declined to do that. So these unlawful acts, as we propose, as we submit, do amount to an abuse of discretion. Here, what we're showing here is that just last September, the state board heard very similar facts on appeal, and this was for the charter school that the state did reverse the lower level of the district and the county on. So what we're showing here is that both in that example in September, Napa County, that board denied without written factual findings. Sutter County also denied without written factual findings. Napa County, post hoc, after the fact, wrote up some written findings. I think they had their legal counsel do it. Sutter County, the board members also wrote up their findings after the fact. They sent around emails. This is in our appeal. We have evidence of those emails that they sent. Napa County then, once they had their written findings, the board convened again and actually voted to adopt them. Sutter County, the board never adopted the findings that were emailed around. So we find this to be even more egregious in terms of an abuse of discretion. At the district level, we contend that the findings themselves that the board did adopt were unlawful and entirely lacking in evidentiary support. There were a lot of opinion, supposition. We don't think this will work. We don't see how you can have these 5 different programs in one school.
1 minute.
Okay, so a lot of speculation there. We are giving just a few examples of what some of these findings were. So one of the findings said that the district found that the proposed model would provide a meaningful benefit to the proposed targeted students. That's not a legal standard. There's no such test as a meaningful benefit. The district also faulted the charter school around signatures. Charter school submitted signatures from parents and from teachers. The teacher signatures were used to meet the legal requirements, not the parent signatures. Just as a reminder to the advisory commission, an abuse of discretion is required really only at one level. That the law allows the state board to reverse based on just one level of abuse of discretion. And then, once again, our ask of you today is to adopt what the CDE is recommending to you, which is to recommend to the state board that they hear this appeal.
Time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and hear from, I believe, Sutter County.
June McJunkin, Sutter County Board President. Chairman Walsh, Commission members. Yes, Sutter County Board of Education did deny the New Pacific Charter School, Yuba City. Sometimes checking boxes is not always the answer. In this case, a thorough review of the petition was done, and we found that the petition was a cut and paste job, and it was obvious because Sacramento was used and it was still sprinkled here and there in the petition that was received. Some other items that are unique to our community were fairly overlooked, and the agreement was, well, they'll fix it in the MOU. So at that point, we realized that documents that carry so much weight and will be presented to the public as an education plan should be accurate to begin with. And interestingly enough, we did not find fault with the charter school's petition for the type of program. We found fault in the petition itself. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, looks like we have we'll move to public comment on the phone. Are there any public commenters on the phone for this item?
Apologies, Chair Walsh. Yes, we do have a handful of callers in the queue.
Thank you. We'll begin.
Good morning, caller. Please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Hi, my name is Lucy Pierre. I am a scholar at New Pacific School going into the first grade. I love my school because the teachers make learning fun. I got really good at writing because of my teachers. I feel safe and loved at my school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, yes. Hi. My name is Chris O'Toole and Brandy O'Toole. We are parents of our child Luke, who will be attending Pacific School in Rancho Cordova this following year. But I'm basically going to share some comments. But we basically have chosen Pacific School because the offering of child-centered care and meeting the child where they are. And we have not found this in the traditional public school system. We love the offerings of the social emotional learning, as well as it seems very vital to the children to be able to learn with these tools. And also this helps them to be better adults and teenagers. And we also feel that project-based learning will help our son to be more engaging in school. And at this type of learning style is more intriguing to him as well. Our son has struggled with the traditional style he has experienced at traditional public schools. And overall, we feel this school will be better meet our son's needs for education.
Time.
And we are grateful. I'm sorry. Do I have more time or no? Okay.
Thank you. Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Good morning. Again, Eric Premack with the Charter Schools Development Center. We're in support of CDE's recommendation that the State Board hear this appeal. We've worked with the appellant, Pacific Charter Institute, for decades, and they have a decades-long track record of success of operating a number of different schools in the Sac Valley area, and we have every expectation that this one will be as successful, if not more so. We think that the abuse of discretion here is pretty well documented at both the district and the county levels, and support the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Peer, and I'm a teacher and parent at New Pacific School, Roseville. Over the past 10 years, I have worked in different capacities at 2 different major school districts in the Sacramento area. I knew I was not reaching my full potential as an educator, and I knew I wanted a more student-centered approach for learning for my daughter entering kindergarten. We have both thrived at New Pacific School this past year, and we are not the only ones. My colleagues and I have heard countless stories from our families expressing their gratitude for their scholars' unique successes this past year. I consider it a privilege to be an educator with this organization. I feel valued and appreciated on a level I have never experienced. It is my understanding that all of our educators plan to return for next school year. I think this speaks volumes to the environment we are building and the precedent being set for our schools. The dedication and passion of our educational team and leadership at New Pacific School provides endless opportunities for the success of scholars and educators within the communities of our schools. Thank you for your time.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Hi, my name is Angela Beckelman, and I am calling in to express my support for New Pacific School. I have taught for 18 years in California, and too often I see whole class instruction where kids are not appropriately supported or challenged. New Pacific School, small environment with low adult-to-student ratios, lots of small group work, and a commitment to personalized learning is where I want my sons to learn and grow. My older son is enrolled at New Pacific School Rancho Cordova because I want a space where my child's voice and choice are honored, which creates more engaged learners, and a space where his unique strengths and needs are considered when organizing multi-age groups and when planning real-world project-based learning. New Pacific has a strong mission, vision, and leadership, and you are in a unique position to give families choices beyond their neighborhood school or homeschool. Please support us.
Good morning, caller. Please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Good morning. It's Zachary Mercado from the California Teachers Association. The Yuba City Unified School District did a thorough job analyzing the petition and adopting written factual findings to deny the petition. Please remember that the sufficient evidence must be based on the documentary record and not new information presented today by the petitioner. And to understand and reiterate, the purpose of AB 1505 was to ensure local control of this process and to respect the governing boards of Yuba City and Sutter County office, and also to ensure that it must occur at both levels as defined during the September State Board meeting. It must happen at both levels, so therefore sufficient evidence must occur at both levels to have this move forward. Please recommend to summarily deny to the State Board. Thank you.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Cynthia Rachel, and I'm a parent of 2 school-age children in Yuba City. I'm here to express my strong support for the approval of New Pacific Charter School, and I would like to highlight the procedural errors committed by the Sutter County Board of Trustees. During the county board meeting, the petitioners were not given the opportunity to address the trustees' questions and concerns, as they were treated as if they were members of the public. Despite attempts by county staff to clarify the process, the trustees proceeded to vote without following the proper procedure. This is a violation that undermines the transparency and fairness that our community deserves and calls for the charter appeal process to rectify this error. I support New Pacific Charter School, and please let CDE and the State Board of Education hear their appeal. Thank you.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Good morning. This is Claire Crawford within the Public Interest, and we support a recommendation for summary denial of this petition. As the State Board has outlined previously, there must be an abuse of discretion at both the county and the district, and Yuba City Unified clearly did a thorough and fair evaluation of a network that is trying to double in size, and based on the cut and paste petition that was submitted, haven't put in thorough work for this petition. And the new data that was presented today is not relevant to this case, and it's also disingenuous as they're comparing only 35 students in their new Roseville school and data from this year, trying to compare it to a total unified district data from the previous year. So these aren't even comparable numbers that they're providing to you today, and they're not relevant. So I strongly urge you to recommend summary denial. Thank you.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
This is Jeff Rice with A+. We also have worked with Pacific Charter Institute for many, many years, and they have proven themselves to be rooted in integrity, accountability, and academic excellence. We also support New Pacific Charter Schools appeal and ask the ACCS to recommend that the State Board hear it as well. Thank you.
Next caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Hello, I'm Dina Lukens, President of the Yuba City Teachers Association, a Yuba City Unified School teacher for the last 30 years. I live and work in Yuba City. I was present at the multiple board meetings for this decision at the Yuba City Unified School Board. The staff and the board operated with all due diligence to consider all the facts, and in this case, they acted in a manner to support our local community, our local students, and our local schools. It seems unlikely that the charter will be able to successfully deliver on their promised programs. Among the issues stated were inadequate staffing and planning to address the needs of our students. The board specifically asked about their location for the schools, and they had no specific details as to an exact location. Our school board acted with all due diligence to protect and support our community and our students, and I urge you to concur with Yuba City Unified School Board's denial of this petition. Thank you.
And last caller, please state your name and affiliation for the record. Your time starts now.
Good morning, Kathy Mancini, calling on behalf of the California School Employees Association. CSEA would similarly urge the ACCS to recommend that the State Board summarily deny the New Pacific School appeal, simply because there's no evidence to suggest that Yuba City Unified
school district abused its discretion. The law plainly requires, and CDE counsel has held, that an abuse of discretion must occur at both the district and the county level. And that's because the determinations at each level are de novo. If there was not an abuse of discretion at one level, then the charter school did in fact receive a fair and impartial hearing on the record. It's abundantly clear that the Yuba City Unified School District completed a thorough and complete analysis of the charter petition, and after considering all the facts, voted to deny. For whatever reason, the Sutter County Board did not similarly complete its duties, but that does not mean that the New Pacific School did not receive a fair and impartial hearing on the petition's merits. Therefore, CSEA would encourage the ACCS to recommend summary denial. Thank you.
Okay, and we have no further callers in the queue.
Thank you very much. It looks like we have at least one person approaching the microphone. Do we have, is just one or do we have more? Several. Okay, it's time for the folks who are in the back of the room to also speak. Please be forming the queue at the microphone.
Thank you. Nicholas Watson from CCSA. We strongly support the staff recommendation. PCI is a well-established charter operator with a great track record of success. They've submitted a high-quality charter petition. We believe that this has been a clear violation of the regulations by both the county and the district in terms of their review of the petition, and we strongly recommend that SBE review this petition. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Elaine Lane. I'm a parent of a 5th grade student who is registered to attend New Pacific School this coming fall of 2023. I am beyond excited for this upcoming school year because I feel that New Pacific School is exactly what our family is looking for. It's a small school that provides personalized learning options through project-based learning. When I first heard about New Pacific School, I did extensive research to make sure that this would be a good fit. The parent company, Pacific Charter Institute, has a great school ratings for all their existing programs. I love how the school is not bound to district lines, so any student can attend regardless of where they live. I can choose what area my child will attend school in. Additionally, I began following the New Pacific School Parent Connect page on Facebook for the Roseville campus, and I found that parents are very involved and the students are thriving at New Pacific School. I immediately knew that this is exactly the type of school community that I want to be a part of. This is a great opportunity that I hope can be available to families in Yuba City. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric Garber. I'm the principal of the New Pacific School in Roseville. I just want to start by saying there were plenty of promises made as we were petitioning to open our school just a year ago, and I can tell you we lived up to all of those promises for the community. There are no bad schools in Roseville. There are plenty of excellent schools, but there isn't our school, and that's what families found. There are several students that just weren't connected. They didn't have the joy, they didn't have the passion, they didn't have the interest at the school they were at, but they found it at our school, and I got to see it every day. If everyone has ever opened a school, you know how hard that is. It's the best kind of tired I've been in a long time, but we have 100% of our staff coming back because we have a mission that we all believe in, and we have students that have literally ran from school before they came to us, and now they're getting up at 4 in the morning with their shoes on, their backpacks ready to go, because they feel connected for the first time. Just because we built a school that is a combination of unique things that together is unique, and that's what we're building, and that's what we want to keep building, because we know it works. And we want to keep this model going, because there are kids out there that need us, kids that don't have that connection, and I don't want to think about what can happen if they don't find a school that really serves them, and that's what we're trying to build, and we want to offer that to every community possible. Thank you.
All right, and seeing no one else in line, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. At this point, I want to reiterate, because we've heard a lot today about abuse of discretion. So a reminder, our role today is to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to make a recommendation to the board to hear the appeal, or in the lack of sufficient evidence, we can make a recommendation to summarily deny review of the appeal. The abuse of discretion question is one for the state board to take up. So at this moment, I'm open to deliberations. So questions to the commissioners, or from the commissioners. Commissioner King.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Please do. Go ahead.
Mine was a clarifying question around it seems like there's a legal question that we're grappling with around, does the abuse of discretion have to take place at both levels or just one? And I'm curious about what CDE's or the state board's attorney's response would be to that question around what about the discretion at one or both locations?
I'm looking towards CDE's table, and they're discussing it right now.
Thank you for the question. It is the CDE's position that the abuse of discretion would need to occur at both levels in order for the state board to reverse the decision.
But can you explain the rationale behind that?
That's the CDE's reading of statute.
Can you give me a little more about what that is? What part of the statute? For us to make this pretty important decision, I think it'd be nice to hear some background on that.
So for today, the role of the ACCS is to determine whether there's sufficient evidence in order for the state board to hear it, and then the state board will determine whether to hear it, and then only after that will they review the allegations and the evidence whether there is an abuse of discretion. For the statute, it's. Are you coming up? All right.
So I guess I'll put a little finer point on my question. Are we making a determination that there was evidence to suggest an abuse of discretion, and therefore a deeper read by the state board needs to happen, and that we need to look at both at the county and the district, or do we have to say it happened at both places? That's why I guess I'm trying to get at understanding what our role is. Is it if we find as a commission that there was some abuse of discretion at the county, for example, is that sufficient evidence for us to then push it to the state board, or do we have to find that there was enough there to push it to the state board at both levels?
Your role today, Lily Coe, CDE Legal, your role today is really just to evaluate what was submitted by the parties, the petitioner, the district, the county, and determine whether enough evidence exists to make a recommendation for the SBE to hear this appeal, or based on your review, you find that there isn't enough evidence. Therefore, you make a recommendation to summarily deny the appeal. But really, it's a recommendation. You don't go into the merits. You don't go into, whether or not there was an abuse of discretion. That will be at the SBE level.
So I guess help me understand. If we find that there was enough evidence at the county but not at the district, does that preclude? Do we then recommend to go to the state board?
Well, if you say, you said if there's enough evidence at the county or at the district, is that enough to go to the state board? Yes, the CDE's reading of the statute, which is 47605 K2E. So the state board shall either hear the appeal or summarily deny the appeal based on the documentary record. If the state board hears the appeal, the state board may affirm the determination of the governing board of the district or the county board of education, or both of these determinations, or may reverse only upon a determination there was an abuse of discretion. So that is the statute, and that is how we interpret the statute, to mean that you're going to find abuse of discretion on both levels.
But for us, we don't have to find it at both levels. We just have to say there's a hint that there might be abuse of discretion, therefore we recommend it go to the state board, and then you put on a case at the state board.
Well, you don't even have to determine you just have to determine whether there is enough evidence that is before you for the state board to even hear, whether or not there was an abuse of discretion.
Got it.
So really, you're not making that determination. You're just looking at the evidence itself.
Got it. Okay. I'll probably have questions later, but for now, I'll be done.
Okay, so I'm going to point of order. Let me restate that. So in the order, we'll go up here, Commissioner King, Commissioner Fennell, Commissioner Patil. Just bounce back and forth. So go right ahead.
So relating to what Commissioner Taylor was actually saying, first off, I will say I'm impacted by the fact that the county staff recommended to approve, and that I also heard the board president say they had no issue with the school pedagogically. I would also offer, going back to what Commissioner Taylor was saying, to me, the statute reads, there will be no necessity to go to the county if the district's decision would stand on its own. And so also from what I heard from 47605 was the word or, right? And because it does exist there for the word or, I would actually strongly recommend that we go with the CDE's recommendation to send it to the state board.
So am I hearing a motion?
I'll wait till everyone.
Thank you. Commissioner Fennell.
Well, I agree with Commissioner King, and I'm prepared to make a motion, but if there are other comments that we'd like to entertain, I can wait.
All right, we'll do that then. Commissioner Patil. I'm okay, thank you. All right. Any further comments? Then Commissioner Fennell.
I move that we accept or we approve the recommendation of staff that the state board hear the appeal.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Fennell to forward this conversation to the state board, and a second by Commissioner King. I will make a comment before we take the vote. And Commissioner Brazil, it looks like you also are considering making a comment? Okay, well, I'll make a comment that I think as a governing board member, I have a great concern anytime, especially as a county board. We are, a primary role for county boards is appellate board. And I think if we aren't clear about the processes that are in front of us, I'm not sure how we expect everyone else to be clear about what their expectations are. So I do have a concern with this one, and I am also in support of this motion. So at this time, unless there are further comments, I'm going to go ahead and take the vote.
I just want to make one comment about due process. I mean, I feel like the AB 1505 was created to ensure that there was due process for charter schools to go to the district and then have an appeal right to the county. And then if that was abused at either of those levels, it could come to the state board. I feel like that was the intent behind 1505. And I'm very concerned about CDE's read of this. If that is the read, that it has to take place, abuse of discretion has to take place at both places. I know that's not the role of the ACCS, but as the advisory commission for the state board, I feel like I want to go on record to say that I'm concerned that if the read is abuse has to take place at both places, are we really giving charter schools due process, which is, I think, what was designed in this appellate system. So I just want to go on record saying that.
Thank you. All right, then I am going to go ahead and call the vote. So the recommendation is for State Board of Education to hear the appeal. I will vote first, and I will say I vote aye. Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Olmos.
Aye.
Commissioner King.
Aye.
Commissioner Patil.
Aye.
Commissioner Fennell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Brazil.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And with all of the notes being taken carefully on all the concerns that have been expressed by this commission. So at this point, I want to thank everybody for their work. Thank you for your patience as we have dealt with technical difficulties, gremlins, and storms. I think I heard something passing by. I'm not sure. But in spite of all of that, we still managed to get the work done. I appreciate everybody's efforts and comments. Thank you very much. This meeting...
Walsh, before you...
Absolutely, I haven't said...
I actually just wanted to commend you.
Oh.
I wanted to commend you for the way you navigated the IT issues, because it seems like a small thing, but protecting the public's right to be heard is important. So I did just want to take the opportunity to say thank you for that. So
thank you for the support. And with that, meeting is now adjourned. Enjoy the rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen.